All right. So Abby, go ahead and tell us about VeraNation.
So raise your hand if you've ever had trouble writing in general, or writing a paper, or anything that consumes with literature or essays. And raise your hand if someone asked you to write about yourself and you drew a blank.
Yeah.
Okay, a few. Good. So what if I told you that you could share your story, you could sell your business through your story? Well, enter in my business, VeraNation. This is where business and storytelling collide. So a bit about my story. I was a music journalist for over 10 years, and I helped jumpstart the first photojournalistic music magazine publication in Charleston called 9 to 5. I went to CFC with the College of Charleston to pursue arts management, and from there I helped musicians mostly with telling their story, and as well as working with venues and things like that. Really getting involved with the Charleston music scene. But when I went to college, I realized that as creatives, the most mundane thing we hate is doing anything outside of creativity. And so I started helping anyone in the arts management field with press releases, editing their bios, doing all their presentations for open houses and things like that. But also I realized how much storytelling was super important, and it's something that I enjoy. So I started a blog, which was the foundation of VeraNation to begin with. And there I could showcase people's stories, and as well as offer them a few services. But it wasn't until I got to go to the Middle East, and yes, that's a real falcon, and you can't pet it. When I got to go to the Middle East, and I realized how important businesses, especially in another country, are really trying to tap into the Western market, especially in English. And what I discovered was that there were so many entrepreneurs, startups that didn't know how to find the right words. And since English is the official language of business now, by the way, does anyone know the official language, the original language of business?
French.
Man. And
It was actually Arabic, where East meets West. But from there, especially being in the Middle East, they were very much, they knew English, but they just didn't know how to really formulate the right content in a Western market. And what I also found fascinating was that people, especially with businesses, your numbers, your stories, your financial statements, those all tell a story in and of itself. And I kind of dived a little bit more into it and realized that's where some of this content can come from. So when I got back home, I revamped VeraNation into a full writing service and kind of used narration as my niche for businesses. So my very first client is based out of Qatar, which is where I visited. He had nothing to go off of. He had a domain, but didn't have any content whatsoever. He had a couple social media pages. He was just really frustrated and just trying to tap into another market. And what we did was I sat him down like I would any of my artists. I did a Q&A, asked him what his weaknesses is, what his strengths were, his accomplishments, his vision, everything in between. And that's the most important thing for me, is not just knowing your business, but also knowing you, because essentially your business is a part of you. And so out of that, I formulated a whole article piece. But out of that, I took out his content once I was finished. And now his website has everything that he needs as far as content. And I was able to kind of salvage into the automotive terminology, which was new for me, but I also learned something new, and I was able to take his slogan and some of the keywords that he wanted to work with and put the narration and everything together. And I formulated his website and his social media presence. And now he actually has gained more business because I've been able to tell him what he should promote the best, which is the custom engines that he makes from scratch, which he wasn't talking about. And now he's the only one in the country to do so. One of my second major clients who I love to death is Nicole Ortiz out of Charleston, South Carolina, owner of Awesome Candle Company. She had two goals. Her first goal was to, one, make supplemental income, stop working 3 jobs, and 2, promote autism awareness in especially in the Hispanic community. So she was actually my first article in Spanish. And what we did is I just sat down in her kitchen. She's making candles. We're talking about everything. And she is also very, very kind of shy when it came to any kind of social media presence, what have you. So I sat her down, we worked out a plan, and I showed her how to use some social media presence. And now out of that article and her confidence level, she is now one of the #1 top Etsy sellers in the country. And all we started with was just a simple Q&A, and out of that came this whole verbiage that she can use now, both English and in Spanish. So what exactly do I do? I am basically an all-around writer in essence. Again, narration is more my niche, but I do offer general editing, content writing, but again, I like to do it in the form of narration. It's a lot less mundane and also gets me to know you a little bit better and your business. And also anything from music management packages for people who just want to get out there in the market. And again, it's a very scary thing for creatives. Something they just don't want to do. So I just spend a month with them, helping them manage themselves. And also, I would love to be more of a gateway between international people, creatives or business owners who want to tap into the Western market. I will tell you from the get-go, self-promotion is definitely my weakest point. I'm so busy with everything else that me doing social media or me trying to reach out to people is just something that's usually on the back burner. So I'm always looking for people who can either have a way with technology. It could be anything from video editing to social media presence to any kind of tool. For example, Loom. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Loom, Loom. So yeah, so I used to be screenshotting and then emailing things of the screenshot, and Loom is a way to just do a 5-minute video through your screen and just email it over. So just things like that I'm very interested in. I love a good variety of audiences, so it doesn't matter what craft it is. I'm essentially a researcher at heart, so it doesn't matter what field it is. I'm always happy to learn something new and help somebody else. So I guess I don't really have a right audience. I guess I'm just looking for anyone who's willing to go outside the box and use narration with their business. And this is how you can find me. And yes, that bridge is real. That's a real background.
All right. Well, stop. Yeah, there you go. Oh, perfect. Anybody's got questions? Denny.
What's your pricing structure?
It ranges, so packages can be about, you asked about pricing.
Yes.
Okay. So for like general editing, it could be anything from like $50 to $100 an hour, depending on the project itself. As far as business or music management packages, you're looking about $450, $500. And then also I can do custom tailorized packages in general, but it really comes down to the project and what we're looking to do.
Josh asked online, how do you find your clients?
A lot of people I've found well, from the beginning, I would just go up to artists and creatives and just say, hey, I like your work, let's work together. Now, people have been going to my website because it's, I still have the blog on there, but I also have the writing services. So people will see the narration that I've written, and they kind of reach out through there and say, I really like what you've done and I want to work with you. And when I'm not presenting or writing, I'm performing poetry, and that seems to have really grabbed people's attention. They'll find me through poetry, and then they see that I also do writing full time. So right now, that's how I've been finding my clients.
Rachel, did you have a question?
Yes, so Vera, it seems like one of your questions that you asked had to do with maybe your demographic and trying to figure out your customer like persona. So like if you analyze the last 2 or 3 clients and the ones you enjoyed and you made the most money from and they got the biggest bang for their buck. If you look at the characteristics that align all of those clients, perhaps they're all moms with home businesses, or there may be some demographic that just shows up repeatedly that you work with often, music creatives. But there might be a way to maybe target specifically that demographic a little bit more, since you've worked with them already in the past, you've had great results. And then that way moving forward, you can be known and kind of brand like you do, you brand as a storyteller. But that could also help lead and guide you more towards your audience and people that are looking for your services. Great job, by the way.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that.
Jane had something in the chat about talking to Chris Leggett at the Central Florida International Trade Office. His contact information is there. Rod, go ahead.
So you're,
Sorry.
so John, in your presentation, who is this geared towards when you give this kind of a presentation?
For anybody, I'm not subjected to one kind of industry. Although I do have background in creatives, but
Not your market, but your presentation. Did you write this just for 1 million cups, or is this, the standard presentation you give at business meetings, or what is your presentation geared towards?
well, this is actually the 4th time I've ever done a virtual presentation, so this is still kind of new for me. Usually when I talk to people face to face, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more intimate, but I'm not really. It's really just kind of just I don't really have like.
I understand. That's one of the reasons I asked that, was because your presentation seemed to be all about who you are and your services, and not a lot about. I mean, you had the client examples, but it wasn't more focused on the transformations you make. As a writer, you seem like you know exactly what you're doing and you know your skill set. And how can you transform your clients more? I think that would be helpful in the presentation.
Okay. Yeah, but I also know it's got to be a short presentation, so I think that's why I only did like 2 examples. But I mean, I'll definitely keep that in mind.
It's not about just those client examples, but being very clear on what kind of transformations you make for your clients, because examples are great, but they need to back up what you say you do for your clients. And so just kind of adding that in would be really helpful.
I think you mean more like metrics, right?
Okay, okay, I gotcha. Yeah, gotcha.
If I may interject, when I see somebody talking about how they help companies tell a story, I expect to hear a story
Correct.
in the presentation. So, it's like, to me, a presentation, which I see dozens a week, is a way for the presenter to show us put their best foot forward, which typically is, this is really explaining what we do and how we do it and why, and B, that it's a compelling message. Okay, and a compelling message for a storyteller is to tell us a story that's compelling. So I echo what Rob was saying. So yeah, I mean the presentation Didn't have sleep last night. The presentation I was hoping to see would basically showcase, you doing your services for yourself.
Well, I had two
Okay.
stories.
No, I get
Okay.
that, I get it, but, yeah, I mean,
But also, this is not a selling platform. This is,
I guess,
you know,
but so again, a story, I was looking for more of the story, so.
okay. I mean, I'll try to work on that, but most of the stories are already on. I mean, if you want to read stories, you can go on there and read them. But, this is a concise pace, but I will keep that in mind for future presentations and see how if you can give me more specifics on how I could do that, I'm open to it.
Starts with a dark stormy night.
Sean,
I think you have some great examples there, like a Duran story and very success story. Find a way to promote that. So you can relate to that. That's going to be a part of the story.
Coming.
yeah,
So me personally, I'm the kind of guy that likes to hear the answer first and then hear the reasoning behind the answer instead of going through the process of somebody explaining the answer, then finally coming to a conclusion. And I was really confused as to exactly what you did up until the point where you got done with your two examples. And then you said, well, this is what I do, because I was thinking you were writing for foreigners who were trying to get into the market, but we didn't really cover that too much. And then it came down to me thinking, well, is she just an online marketer? Is she a guy or a girl who just does promotions for Instagram and different things? And it wasn't until the very last minute and a half that I finally said, oh, okay, this is what you do. So I think to be able to give me the answer first as to what your company does, how you do it, give me the examples of how you're bridging the gap of international, and then give me the stories, I think that would help.
I think that's good advice. Good advice. Anybody other questions?
No. New York weather looks great from her window.
We got a few more minutes.
No more, no more less.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so we have one last question, of course. So what can we as a community do to help you? Yeah.
If you think this is something that you're interested in, please reach out. But again, just this feedback is phenomenal enough for me. So I'm very grateful just for this.
Yeah, we strongly recommend that, we're gonna have the video out on our YouTube channel soon. And so, yeah, oh yeah, post your information in the chat to your contact information.
Yeah.
And so when the video comes out, we strongly suggest that you review it many times, take notes, and really get the benefit of the feedback. And you're welcome to reach out to us or whatever, and then we can hook you up with whoever gave you some feedback. I'm happy to chat with you. I've worked with a lot of companies on their presentations as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I always take notes. So that's what I've been doing. But, absolutely. This is what the platform's for. It's just getting that feedback and honest feedback. And it's very helpful. So
are we the first one named cups that you've presented?
No, actually, this is my third.
Third, okay, right. So that you're doing the right thing, going around the country, and once you get it really nailed down, my suggestion is to go to St. Petersburg, Florida. And because they have probably one of the best 1 million cups out there, vis-a-vis the audience. We used to be kind of like them, but we're trying to get back to that, where they typically have 60 to 100 people, and with a significant number of real investors and so forth.
I do indeed. That's good. All right.
And
Thank you, Abby. Oh, I did have one other question. Is it VeraNation or VeraNation?
It's Vera, VERA.
But
VeraNation.
Vera, like very, but Vera.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, next, Aaron. Aaron said he got all his issues worked out, so you are unmuted. Aaron, are you calling us from Indiana?
No, I'm in also 1 million cups Charleston, so I'm calling from my house in Charleston.
How sweet.
See, I grew up in Indiana, so I thought we could have a moment there.
I mean, we could still have a moment, but,
Charleston.
so let's see.
Right, well, hit F5 and you are all set.
All right, so thank you guys for having me. My name is Aaron Brickman. I'm here with Athlete Creator. I'm here to talk about maximizing athletes' name, image, and likeness, or NIL. So 2 years ago, student athlete life has changed. The NCAA basically made it legal for a student athlete to monetize their name, image, and likeness, which basically means they can now get brand deals. And basically, if they have a product or an offer, they can use their social media platforms and promote it just like any other person in the world. In the past, if you had a product or idea, you couldn't use your name or your social media to promote it, because then you would be using your status as an athlete to promote a product, even if it has nothing to do. So when that NCAA made it legal, it basically opened the floodgates, and there's tons of opportunities, and the market's become incredibly competitive. You have collectives, which are basically booster clubs for athletes. So at University of Central Florida, you have the Kingdom, NIL, and Mission Control, where basically a bunch of boosters donate a bunch of money, and then each athlete gets X amount of money per month in exchange for certain goods and services. Then you have NIL specific marketplaces, which is essentially a cross between a LinkedIn and an Indeed, where student athlete creates a profile, they link their social media accounts, and then they can apply for various deals. There are about 5 or 6 different marketplaces right now. You have Icon Source and Dreamfield, or one Dreamfield was actually Mackenzie Melton, who's at Florida State and UCF quarterback, is actually one of the founders of Dreamfield, but there's tons of options. And then you have your traditional sponsors, where you can partner with like a local air conditioning or car dealership and kind of go like your traditional athlete marketing sponsorship. So the size of NIL is set to become $1 billion industry this year. So it's incredibly massive, but it's also incredibly competitive. So my story was, I was an athlete. The reason why Eric brought up Indiana is I did attend Trine University, which is a small school in northeastern Indiana. I played hockey up there. I got my degree in mechanical engineering. And then what brought me down to Charleston is the Navy. So I'm currently active duty Navy. I'm in the Navy until 2027. And basically what I'm building Athlete Creator to be is basically the agency I would have wanted when I was an athlete, which is essentially a third set of eyes outside of your parents and coach to kind of think long-term with your career. So my vision for Athlete Creator, I wanted to become the athlete brand company. Like the presentation before, the first key is brand building and storytelling. It all comes down to the athlete's ability to tell a story and be vulnerable, because the internet is so saturated with content, and really in order to strike through, it's your ability to tell a story, who you are, what's your mission, and kind of where you want to be. Basically get our athletes to be vulnerable online and share their trials and tribulations, because everyone's had it. And then with that, pairing them with companies where their mission and values align to hopefully have a more longer term partnership instead of just a one-off brand deal. So taking the athlete story and then what they're interested in, and then connecting them with companies to build a longer term relationship. And the last and probably most important pillar of Athlete Creator is educational platform, which you're building. The reality is there's a lot of things you don't learn in college, from a financial, depending on what your major is, from a financial planning side, real estate, just general life advice. So talking with other successful people and really building up a way and giving our athletes the opportunity to really jumpstart their careers for long after they graduate. So the educational platform is coming, but that is the last pillar. So how do we make money? So I am a licensed athlete agent in the state of South Carolina, which basically means I get 10% commissions off anything from sponsorships, appearances, affiliate deals. I also like have my own personal brand deals because it's one of the ways where if I can't land a deal with a company, how can you expect me to represent you? In the future, definitely hire additional agents. Athlete Creator's got a good name and a good mission, and I work about 70 hours a week with the Navy. So running a full skill agency, like I need help. Like I'm going to need help. Another aspect would be being a brand coach for university and collectives, kind of being a coach and mentor for us, instead of helping one or two athletes in a program. Now I can build a program and help the entire athletic department in that. And the last would be having athlete creator specific events and showcases where you have a bunch of top athletes in high school or middle school and kind of get them and start getting them to promote their story online so they can use it for a recruiting tool, because every college coach now is online, and basically getting them comfortable promoting themselves through social media. So the next steps for Athlete Creator is, the reality is I graduated college a year and a half ago. So my network is growing, but I have no connections in Florida. Slowly building in Charleston, but getting connected with potential sponsors and collaborators. And also when I'm working 7 days straight from 11 p.m. to 8:30 in the morning, like that messes up the schedule. So it's just slowly getting connected. And then also bringing in an educational program. I'm working with 2 athletes at College of Charleston on the women's basketball team. So I have a minimum viable product slowly starting to go, but start expanding and then really building Athlete Creator out to what I want it to be. And then also getting licensed in other states. So for name, image, and likeness, each state, you have to be licensed in each state in order to do business. And the student has to be, the athlete has to be a student at a university in the state. So if I want to work with this athlete who is from South Carolina, but both goes to school at UCF, have to be licensed in Florida. And Florida, I just put in my application to be a licensed athlete agent in Florida a few days ago. They have a great program where if you're a veteran or active duty, they waive the $630 licensing fee. So no brainer. And hopefully by early next year, that all paperwork will get processed. So that is the Athlete Creator story. I would love to connect. I'll leave this up for a second. So if you guys bring out your phone and scan it and get my contact info, I'd love to hear your thoughts and any suggestions, because I am still relatively new.
Awesome, thank you. So Denny, your hand was up first.
Yeah, that's very ambitious. How many people do you have working for you right now, and how many do you envision you're going to need? Because that's pretty comprehensive what you're trying to train these people with.
So I'm working with 2 athletes on the women's basketball team at College of Charleston. In the process of looking and hiring a social media intern, just so I can be more consistent on social media. And then from the educational platform, I partnered with a financial advisor, and it's basically real estate and kind of building out a platform. So on the books, it's just me, but slowly building relationships and kind of a thing. So it's an ambitious process, but it's slowly building. And I've had, with anything, I've had a mentor who basically has success with this, a mentor, ex-Navy guy, and he's kind of, I'm about 10 steps further than I would where I am now if I was just doing this on my own. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much so.
See, what comes first, the athlete or the sponsor?
It depends. It's kind of like a cyclical strike. Athlete definitely needed 1 or 2 athletes first, and then it's and then also let's see what they like. But it's also, if I'm out about meeting cool companies, then I could find an athlete for a specific company, or have a company kind of like on deck to when I find the right athlete to connect them with. So It's,
I got a specific example for you. My niece is dating a hockey player up in northern Michigan who's looking to turn pro. Is that something that I give him your opportunity to reach out to him and talk to him before he goes pro? To try to build his reputation and his liking?
yeah, well, he should already be doing that because if he's a college athlete, he could already be doing that. So yeah, I'd love to chat with him. I'm not licensed in Michigan, so I can't, I don't know, I'd have to look at their license fees, but like every college athlete should be, because basically, if you're a college athlete, you're already a top 2% athlete in whatever sport you're in. So even though if you're not pro, like you've already reached the top 2% of whatever, so it's basically taking that story and promoting it. So yeah, I'd love to talk to him if he give me his contact, if he reaches out.
What do you do in your spare time?
My spare time, great question, because 70 hours a week plus business. So my schedule with the Navy is very robust. I'm off today, so I get 2 weekends off. So building an athlete career is basically something to do when I'm off Mondays and Tuesdays or Thursdays and Fridays, while like everyone else is working. This business like gives me something to do. And also, I don't know how familiar you all with Charleston, but there's a lot of cool places to go, like run and be outside, and a lot of nice beaches to kind of get there. So definitely reset that way. Does that answer your question?
We have beaches in Florida too.
Yeah, beaches in Florida. Yeah.
So I know a lot of universities have companies come in and do an NIL for their entire sports teams. My alma mater, BYU, they had different companies come in and do full sponsorship of all the programs. Are you looking at being a broker for the university to come in and get a NIL deal with, entire teams or entire programs? Or are you just looking at athletes? And is there any conflict of having the university or college have an overall deal versus having individual athletes have individual deals?
I guess the answer is both. The NCAA, it's still, NIL is still new. So like the NCAA just changed it to where colleges now can't get deals specifically for their athletes. Still has to be done through a collective or kind of a way. So it's more on the athlete, but it's both in kind of the program. So primarily with athletes, but also NIL for every school is now a thing. And they're smaller schools. So Charleston has 3 D1 schools. You have College of Charleston, Charleston Southern, and the Citadel. They have some money in their athletic department, but a school like Charleston Southern, their mission is a faith-based educational program. So they haven't brought in any NIL yet. So that would be a school that could help, like big picture with their whole athletic department, at least build brand building. But for most of it, it's probably gonna be an individual athlete. So it's very situational based, and like you said, there is a tight line of ethically side, like it has to be very strategic and careful. Does that kind of answer your question?
So yeah, so with what you said, did you say that the NCAA does not allow the university to have an overall NIL deal?
So the NCAA changed it to where they can't broker deals for the athletes. They can connect companies, and basically what it would be is through collective. So it's basically the third party organization, bunch of boosters where they can get deals for every athlete. So there was a collective at Texas Tech where they're giving every women's basketball player $25,000. So they can kind of go through that route, but the university on the books now, I believe, can't technically give deals.
University can't be a middleman.
Yeah.
Okay, but that doesn't change that a brand can come in and sponsor entire programs, correct?
Correct.
And so you can both be sponsored as a program and be sponsored as a personal athlete.
Yes, correct.
Rachel had a question.
Aaron, phenomenal presentation, great job. Yes, this is a brand new space, with that new regulation and things like that. Would it be easier for you to partner with those licensed athlete agents who already reside in individual states, like i.e. in Florida, someone who already resides here, versus you acquiring those different licenses in the different states? So,
That's a great question. It's probably I think in order to partner with them, I first, at least personally, maybe build up Athlete Creator more, that show proof of concept and bring them in, because that would be exactly like the long-term plan is, as once we get to a point, have Athlete Creator almost become like a real estate agency for
absolutely.
individual agents, especially with my schedule with the Navy, like can't be everywhere, and like you can only, even 2 or 3 athletes is a lot to like really specialize it. I think that is definitely long term in the next, and I say that within the next maybe year or so, partner with agents, and if they want to set up, have their name be the agent, they want to come under the Athlete Creator umbrella, where they pay a monthly fee, like I don't, maybe not even take commission, like literally just $100 a month to be part of the, use our brand and connection. That would be, in order to really scale it, to be, that would be, is definitely something, and that also save it. Or if Athlete Creator gets large enough, if there's someone who wants to be an agent, we would pay the initial fee, and they would have to be an agent with, for a 2-year contract and pay X amount of money, and we
Yes.
did. So
Absolutely, that makes great sense. I'm sure you're using attorneys a lot, and if not, I know you definitely should be, because this is more of an intellectual property thing. It may go into some other rights, and of course, your commerce is across states and things like that. So you, it sounds like what you're building is great, building something similar. So I'm gonna make sure I connect with you. My target audience aren't athletes, but they are individuals trying to do more digital things and being able to make money off of their content. So in this case, it's just athletes and their image and their name, but doing it for other individuals as well. So I've messaged you, and you got a great card and a great website. Great job, Aaron. Good job. And thank you for your service.
awesome, thank you so much.
I think the rest of us echo that as well. Thank you. Richard. So I had some advice, if you don't mind.
Can he stop the screen share?
Yeah,
On the one hand, you're trying to do quite a bit. You're trying to offer a comprehensive service, and the problem with that is, which I've experienced as well, is that people like to focus on different aspects of that service because they're very product focused, and so you need to come up with maybe a better way to explain it. The one thing too, though, was you list one of your 3 pillars was education, but what you were describing was mentorship. And so, you know, I have a lot of special sports contacts, and I know other people, several other people in the room do too. And so I think if you can bring, I don't know what the competitive landscape looks like, but if you partnered up with, like, for example, a professional athlete association and brought them in as mentors to these athletes, I guarantee that's going to be a huge draw for you, you know, regardless of what the competitive landscape looks like. So that's just a suggestion.
No, I like that, and I like the mentorship more than education, because that's essentially what it is I was literally a college athlete 1.5 years ago, and came to the Navy out of curiosity. Like, it's more mentorship and not. So
I wish this was around when I was in college, because I lost all my sponsorships when I went to school. I was like that.
So I had a flashback of what's Tom Cruise movie? No, McGuire.
Oh.
Show me the money. So there's a whole slew of professional PR companies and management companies out there managing their athletes. How do you compete in that arena when these guys could actually just transfer right into the NIL and take over that space that you're already trying to create?
yeah, so that's, the market is heavily competitive, especially in a town, especially in the state of Florida, Orlando, Miami, any major college. Like, that is true, and there's a lot of, but there's also tons of opportunities. So getting an athlete on UCF, the starting running back for on University of Florida, like that's not, like I can't provide the right value for that. But an athlete in mid-major D1, D2, even D3, like that's beneath this major agency's time. So that is where the opportunity is. And I know that because I was a D3 athlete, small school. So athlete creator isn't there yet, but it's still, I mean, it's a greater than $1 billion. So even if I have barely a point of that, or a half a point, or a percentage of a point, like that's still enough. And the reality with athlete creators, I'm in Navy full blue till 2027. So there's something here to work, but it's also like just get a little sliver and see, kind of be fluid and flexible and see what the market is kind of going. Does that kind of answer your question?
And I like Rupert's idea, pulling in an athlete, the professional athlete, and kind of having them go around to your college athletes. I think that would be massively successful.
And that can be done with alumni from whatever university you're targeting.
Yeah, and I have friends that run an organization of 300 professional athletes, so including football.
Yeah, that
So-
could be business one. I like that because especially it's like the whole point is to get not work for the business, have the business work for you, but not work for the business. So bring in.
Yeah, I did have a question too, though. Does the Navy put any constraints on your activities as an entrepreneur?
Yes, no international relationships. And I'm not, like, I can't talk about what I'm doing with the Navy. Like it's very
Are
separate.
you a spy?
So, like I do have a clearance, so it's very, no international relationships. I have to be pretty transparent. Once athlete creator starts making actual money, then I'll have to be transparent and stuff with that. In the meantime, as a build, they don't really care. It's just here's on the side. But once it gets to the point where it's a sustainable business that's profitable, like, yeah, it's just open, and that's just on my end to be fluid and open with the communication. So
So
there's nothing.
I strongly suggest you get a good attorney and a good accountant. And have them set it up for you that you can, because I'm sure they've already figured out ways to like go around it legally,
Mhm.
right? And you know, just try to set something up so that you're protected
Yeah.
and can still grow.
Here's my question.
And so the final question is, of course, what can we as a community do to help you?
It's mainly connections, like, and seeing if there's someone that could, in your network would like to, that I should meet or something. Like I'd love to talk and meet and grow. Like I'm in Charleston. Appreciate Josh for sliding into my LinkedIn DMs and asking me to present. But just connection, if there's anything to do, like I am year and a half out of college, new entrepreneur where I work full time. Like if there's someone who could help that we would connect and have a good conversation, I'd love to continue with that. That's probably number one.
All right.
Are you an ABC?
Okay, so let's see. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
What can I just do?
That's an ambitious goal.
Right?
They speak that really good for mostly.
It's actually like a digital
So next week, we're gonna hear from HOA.
No, this is our last meeting till the first of the year.
No.
That's next.
Was that some more?
Better get some more.
It will be here.
14.
I messed up the slide presentation. I don't remember who.
Hey, Eric, can I, while you're figuring out.
Oh, yeah, Rod had an announcement.
I'm doing a workshop next Thursday night at 7 on Zoom. About transforming your business with story. So you heard me talk all kinds of things. And I have a little flyer here if you'd like. It's just a hour-ish workshop, and I'll teach you how to create a core story that helps you be purpose driven, and purpose driven companies can get competition. So I got something here, so after we're all done here.
Awesome.
I would also like to encourage you to, we do, and if anybody's interested in doing this themselves, we do allow 20-minute educational sessions, like the thing I did on networking a few weeks ago. If you would like to do something like that here for a 20-minute session on storytelling, we'd love to have you. And if anybody else would like to do a 20-minute session on the thing that they're really smart about, we'd love to have you, because we don't always have speakers, and you've seen that we have one speaker. Sometimes we don't have anybody. We do open phones, and so we can use the educational presentations. I'm sorry.
Do you have a list for that? Am I in that funnel?
Well, you still have to.
You still have to apply to present. We'll put you in there, but if you want to do that, you don't have to. So if you've already presented, Rod did, instead of waiting 6 months, you can give an educational presentation, because that will be different from your normal
But
presentation.
you're saying go online and put in your application
Yep,
too.
1millioncups.com/Orlando. Present.
Okay.
So
Is there a way that you want us to indicate that it's a education presentation in the application or not?
there's something in there about it, or well, there's a space in there about what are you going to talk about, and just say this is an educational presentation. And I think Josh is still on the call, so he can at least look for that, because he's the one who handles our speakers. And then once you get approved, then you schedule yourself. And so you could go on a day where we already have a speaker, because you get 20 minutes plus 10 minutes of questions, and so we'd still have time for everything. So next week, we're going to hear from Eric Parsons of HOA Messenger. I have a message from my HOA. And I didn't mean to say that out loud. And then we're going to hear from Hannah Naira of Chill Advisor. Hannah's been here in the past. He doesn't have a logo, so I went and found that for him.
I like it.
I like Chill really. So reminder, we're meeting next week, but we are not meeting on the 21st or 28th
The holiday season.
of the holiday season. But as entrepreneurs, we all know we don't quit, even though everybody else is like shutting down for the time. We're still working. So take this extra couple hours, maybe relax.
Or you know, we meet and have a cigar.
Or meet and have a cigar, breakfast cigar.
We can meet under a bridge.
There is well, we could, but I want to break.
Want to break?
So anyway, we will see you all in download the chat if you're on Zoom. If you want the chat and you're here, email me and I will send it to you. Amita, you always raise your hand and I always forget to send it to you. So email me a reminder. Join us on meetup.com if you're not on Meetup already. Connect with somebody you met with today. Have coffee, have lunch, do something, get together where you can deepen those relationships, and that's how we build that network of entrepreneurs. And Rupert, what do you have?
So there's a new group in town called Orlandopreneur, and we just started it Sunday, and we have our first event coming up on Monday, the 19th at Gatlin Hall Brewing, and we're already on a wait list for the event, and so we encourage you to go on Meetup and look up Orlandopreneur. And what our mission is to basically build the entrepreneurial community in Central Florida here in Orlando, and by bringing all the different silos and turning the hubs into gears and making engines and things like that, so that we can finally realize our potential. So we would love to have everybody come. First beers on us, and
Awesome.
We look forward to seeing you all there.
I have to quit my job just to be able to go to all the meetings for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Has anyone signed up for that?
I'm on the wait list. Where is it at?
I got
It's
it.
at Gatlin Hall Brewing in Soto.
Okay, so even though I'm on the wait list, can I still come?
Yeah, we'll have a rope and we'll have one at a time.
Yeah.
All right, well, everybody be back here in 167 hours, but I will see you all next year.